I'll start. Did you fill out a bracket, and who's your final four?
Well, Gonzaga's going to win, so I didn't even bother to fill out a bracket. They're just going to win, Maz. So there's my prediction. Um, they've been good for many, many years, but I mean, they've maybe outdid themselves this year. So let's keep our fingers crossed.
Fair enough. Just the overall, where's the team at right now, and how has training been?
Training, Moss, has been upbeat. Uh, there's been obviously some good days, and of course, there's going to be some bad days. There's going to be some frustrating days. But overall, I would say it's a hugely positive camp so far. I'll list a couple of good things in general, and you guys can go into more details, and then I'll list a couple things that aren't so good. You guys can ask me the details there, but overall, in general, the good parts are, again, some of the young kids that we have coming up have shown pretty well. They're enthusiastic. They're excited to play. JP, Christian, Nico, Montero's inclusion, the regular staff, the goalkeeping union has done well. We've had overall pretty great weather. There's been a couple of days where you would expect 39 degrees and raining, but a couple of days last week were tremendous. They're warm and sunny and puts the guys in a good mood. The inter squad scrimmage that we had Tuesday was certainly good for us as coaches. Some of the negatives is just, look, Raul's still trying to get his green card, and we need to solve that. He needs to get into camp. Luckily, knock on wood, we've avoided the injury bug, but there's guys that are getting a little sore, and so you got to hold them out of different parts of training for precautionary reasons. Other than that, there's a couple of little video sessions where guys had to be called out because they weren't doing what we wanted them to do, but overall it's been good.
Hey, Brian, speaking on Raul Reyes, obviously he's been training in Peru in the physical part, but how difficult is not having him there with you guys and kind of seeing how he's going to integrate into this new group of players?
Before I answer that, Nico, Tim, you're next. I'll tell you that you're next because I saw you jumping on there. Nico,
sorry, Tim.
No, it's all good. What I would say is that Raul is a pretty good pro. He's been resilient. Look, he's a forward. He'll find his rhythm. But yes, there are some frustrations there because, with the different tactics of trying to play with two forwards, obviously we'd love to have him here. But, he'll pick it up fairly quickly. I'm sure he's played in various formations in his career with a guy next to him. So, hopefully he's doing the physical work that he shows on his Instagram account, because I've been watching Raul. I've been watching that account very closely. We are going to obviously correspond with, the Peruvian Federation and, get an update onto what he's done so that our guys back here know what kind of shape he's in. But, for me, it's the eye test. We'll get him here and we'll put him through the paces and we'll see where he's at.
Hey, Brian, I saw that you guys scrapped the Southern California part of your preseason training. What was the thinking around that, and was it easy to find the makeup scrimmages against the USL sides?
Well, the reason for that was because our game was Friday, announced as a Friday for opening day. And so when that happened, we had planned for, Saturday, Sunday, and the game schedule just wasn't what we wanted. There was another game in Southern California that maybe wasn't as publicized against an MLS team, and we're working through some things. We thought about, getting the guys out of Seattle, even with the COVID concerns, just getting them away from home and out in the sunshine, but it's been sunny here. So basically, Tim, it was a combination of all those factors, but the main driver was just being able to now control that we will play these games on a more appropriate schedule in the build up to that first game against Minnesota.
Coach, you talked about right there, Rui Diaz playing next to somebody, and you've talked recently about two forward formation. Are you leaning one way or another between a 4-4-2 or a 3-5-2 or 5-3-2? Are you kind of feeling out based on your personnel, one that's better for you than the other?
Yeah, I haven't decided exactly, but it will be some version of a 2 forward set to start the year. That much I can tell you. Could be 8-2, 1-8-2, something creative like that. But we'll just have to see. I mean, there's pluses with going with 3-5-2. There's pluses with, 4-diamond-2 or whatever version you want to come up with there. There's, 3-4-1-2. I mean, there's a lot of numbers that can go up on a chalkboard. We, again, are just trying to, figure out what works out on the grass. So work in progress still, but definitely want to utilize, Will, Raul, and Freddie, because, with the loss of Jordan, that was 9 goals and 12 assists, or 10 goals and 8 assists, or, whatever that was. So we gotta make sure we pick up some goals from somewhere.
And you just mentioned Freddie there. What have you seen specifically from him, and what has he shown you so far this training?
Freddie's been one of the positives. I mean, he's very, very good, talented goal scorer. I think some of the changes that Freddie has to be prepared for are, we're a team that presses a little higher up the field in Vancouver. Our defending schemes are a little bit different. The roles and responsibilities there have changed for him a little bit, but he's eager to come back and make an impact. And, Freddie being a good kid and a good young man, he's buying in and he's doing what we ask of him on both sides of the ball.
Hey, Brian. You mentioned that some of the young guys have looked really good. Who are some of the standouts so far on the younger players, especially maybe the players that a lot of us haven't seen most likely?
Do you want the young unsigned ones, or you want the young Defiance ones, or do you want me to just go into general terms? Or
let's who are the players that you think that have a good chance at making the first team based on their performance in preseason?
Well, that's a leading question. You guys are going to write a lot about this, and I'm sure Garth is listening. What I would say is, look, we took Reed Baker Winning with us last year, the last half of this year. He might be the front runner in the clubhouse, but there is a ton of competition for the last couple of spots. I'll go down the list a little bit, because after Reed, then there's some question marks there a little bit. Juan Alvarez is a young attacking player that has tremendous potential. Sota Kitahara has really changed Jeremiah. I mean, I remember that kid, smaller profile, not physically imposing, good passer, was he a right back? Was he a holding midfielder? You look at him now, he's filled out. His calves are big. He's athletic. He can take the abuse in the middle part of the field. So he's done very well. I would say that Cody Baker is another one. on my list. I mean, he's been a surprise. He might not quite be ready, but he's gonna be ready. Taka Sasaki is a young left back, and I know we have a plethora of left-sided guys, but it's always handy to have more coming into the pipeline. You know, he might be a ways off as well, but I like having him. Sissoko, you know, he's the guy that you guys heard a lot about. We need maybe some cover at center back. I think he's got a legitimate shot if he continues to, you know, play well in some of these exhibition games. You know, we're going to try and have two groups playing with each match, you know, have two groups playing. So if he does well, you know, there's a chance that he might be able to slide in, although he's a foreign guy. So that poses us some problems.
Coach, so you're talking about the young players. I want to mention Chris Hagar. He scored as a freshman 2 goals with Georgetown. Are you guys following him? I mean, like just scouting what he's doing. I know he's a freshman, but he's doing a good thing in defending champions national team.
Yeah, Chris Hedgaard's a very talented player. We were very high on him. And then last year, what happened was, you know, there was COVID that hit. They had to make a choice whether they go to a school and, you know, what was the pluses and minuses of a, you know, first team versus Defiance versus Georgetown. I mean, those are individual choices by each family that they have to make. So we will definitely keep our eye on Chris and, you know, some of the other players. Jackson Reagan that went to Michigan for, you know, 4 years. Really nice kid, good center back. I mean, we always keep tabs on all the kids that go away from college because, you know, that is a pathway that has had some success with our club and even, you know, other MLS teams.
Coach, I'm not sure if you've had a chance to comment on this publicly, but last week, Governor Inslee announced that the club would be able to open the season with fans in the stands, albeit in a limited capacity. But can you talk about, for you personally, what it's going to mean to start getting Sounders faithful back in there at Lumen Field, and also what kind of boost that might provide to the boys?
Yeah, I think it'll help everybody. I mean, everybody has been impacted by COVID in some way, shape, or form. I think Andrew, to be fair, I mean, we've, you know, had some adversity, but it's not quite as bad as some of the real life stories that you hear out there, people losing their jobs and stuff like that. So any sort of benefit that we can provide to the overall community, sports is a big part of a lot of people's lives. Having people able to come and watch the games again in a more normal, you know, normal type of world, you know, getting some safety in indoor areas where they can watch TV or in their homes with friends as the vaccine rollout keeps going. I mean, there's a ton of positive things on the horizon. I would again caution everybody, though, we need to do it in a safe fashion. I mean, that's always number one. We got to believe in the science and the, you know, I have my mask here. I'm in my office alone, but I wear my mask when I'm not by myself. We wear our masks out on the field. So we're trying to be smart about how we open things up, but it's certainly going to boost a lot of people's morale, including our players, the coaching staff, the people here when we actually have fans back in the building.
Hey, Brian, without leading the witness, where are you behind schedule in terms of the team's prep to where you want to be?
Well, I don't know if we're behind. We just haven't had, you know, we've had one inter squad scrimmage, and then the next is going to be, you know, next is going to be Defiance. And then we've got a game against Portland to help them prepare for Champions League. So I would say that we're, you know, on course. You know, the games will have, you know, we'll have a lot of feedback. We'll watch the tape and video and see what we see on the field at that moment. And that'll provide probably a lot of questions, Maz, and hopefully we'll be able to come up with answers.
So you're on schedule in the prep, and then the games will really give you more kind of evaluation.
Yeah. You can only practice so much. I mean, they got to go out there and try these different looks, these different formations, these different tactics. They got to actually go out and do it against a different opposition. So we'll see in the next couple of games will be a good measuring stick.
Thanks.
Hey, Brian, how I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, you can go ahead. It's all right.
Brian, I just wanted to know, how's there seems to be a lot of positional battles, a lot of players who can play different positions, and a lot of players that are playing for the same positions. Does that level of competition, has that really been emphasized across the last couple of weeks? Are guys taking it a little bit different? Do you see anything different from this group than maybe from some years back?
Well, I'd answer that, Nico, by saying, look, it's always like that in preseason before the coach kind of knows the group and you get a couple changes at the end of the year. You know, they're all fighting for spots. They're all fighting to reestablish, you know, their place in the locker room. There's leadership roles. There's young, hungry roles. There's the guys who are, you know, good journeyman pros that know the routine, but they might, you know, have a little extra fire in their belly because they want to be starters. They don't want to be just labeled as an MLS veteran. So it's always like that. I don't think this preseason is any different. Again, I'll say it, the young players are driving some of the enthusiasm. You know, the old senior pros are, you know, doing their thing. They know what their bodies need to get ready. And yeah, you can say that there is competition in certain spots, and it always drives the level of training up. And then, you know, the insertion of, you know, Spencer Ritchie into the goalkeeping corps, and the, you know, addition of Kellen and Montero, you know, that puts a spark in training for sure.
Coach, we have talked.
Felipe, sorry, one sec. Michelle, you've been waiting very patiently. Go ahead.
Thank you. I'm sorry. I'm just not as quick on the draw as I would have liked to be. First of all, Brian, I love the two cuties behind you. I'm so glad that's your backdrop. It's made my day. Second, the actual question is, this is a much different preseason than preseasons you guys have had in the past, obviously with COVID and stuff. And so I'm curious at this point, or kind of maybe, are there any adjustments you guys are making since you're not in a normal like tournament fashion or normal, you know, training camp fashion that you would normally do like in Tucson or in other areas where you're seeing a lot of your Major League Soccer opponents in a lot more frequency, or if that's like not a priority since the schedule hasn't even been released, or if that's like another area for someone else on your coaching staff?
What I would say, Michelle, is that a lot of it came down to logistics, because again, when we were planning the preseason back in January and, you know, early February, there were some questions that we didn't have answers to. And a lot of it had to do with, you know, COVID, and did we want to risk traveling down to Tucson where we normally go? They have a really nice facility there where 4 teams at any given time are using the weight rooms and locker rooms, but you know, that 4 different teams is gonna, you know, add to your risk. You know, there was a little blurb out there. I think they've got it under control with the MLS and, you know, their own team protocols, but there was a little scare in Toronto, you know, had a little outbreak. And so when we weighed those risk factors, you know, we thought a shorter trip down to LA towards the end of our preseason was kind of the normalcy of a regular, you know, travel to Tucson. Last year we traveled to Mexico, you know, Gonzo Pineda had some connections there. That was a great way to start our preseason. So a lot of it was logistics, and the on the ground logistics here at Starfire is, look, a lot of times if we were in a hotel, you'd go and train, you'd take the bus or the vans to the training ground, then you'd come and have a team lunch, then you'd have a gym session or an extra field session at 4 o'clock, and then you'd have a meal, You'd have, dinner, and they're together. There's that little bit of bonding that goes on during preseason. I think we have to see how that goes, see if we miss any of that. But, again, for sheer logistics, I mean, if Steph Fry lives on Bainbridge Island or some guys have to drive up 405, I mean, you try driving 405 at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, and then you got to put your feet up for 30 minutes, and then you got to drive back down 405 at 4 o'clock in the afternoon for a training session. It just doesn't make sense. So those are some of the things that we're kind of doing a little bit differently this year. But the trade-off that I told them is they get to sleep in their own beds at night. So some of the senior guys with kids are very happy about that.
Felipe, thanks for your patience there. We got Michelle in. Go ahead and ask your question.
Yeah, thank you. So, Coach, we have talked about COVID a lot, but there is something else that is happening around, which is the discrimination. I see the beautiful picture that you have on your background. The MLS is creating a committee to promote the inclusion, the equality. How are you treating these issues with the team, or how the organization is helping to promote all these values, the equality, inclusion, diversity?
Felipe, I know that the team is doing a lot in that area. I don't know all of the specifics. I listen in on our weekly calls, and there's these programs and plans, and we're going to go. It's action. It's not just words. So I'm very proud to be part of an organization that actually is doing things. And the details I would probably leave for Alex and some of the other people that have more information as to exactly what the organization is doing. What I would answer your question on a personal level is my grandchildren are very important to me. And we will try to be good, grandparents and teach them about inclusion and equality and racism and making sure that they grow up to be good human beings and good people. That's my personal pledge. We help our children, give them advice sometimes on, little parenting tricks. But, for me personally, it's just important that I become an example for my family. And that's what I want to focus on.
Felipe, I'll just expand on Brian's remarks a little bit per his comments in that we did issue a club statement yesterday on some of the impacts that we felt in the community here regarding the Asian American and Pacific Islander communities. And then there were some specific action items in that statement, things that the club's involved with. If you'd like more information on that, happy to get you those resources after the call. Jaime, I see you've got your hand raised. It's great to see you. Thank you for being here. You're free to ask your question.
Thank you. I actually have two questions. The first one is, have you had any health concerns from players or staff in regards of COVID or otherwise? That's my first question. And the second question has to do with Fredy Montero. How's the integration of Fredy Montero back in the team, back in town? Thank you, Coach.
Okay. The first one, yes, we have had some confirmed cases, but that's obviously something that I can't publicly talk about who and the details. I can't do that. As far as Fredy Montero is concerned, he puts a smile on my face because he's assimilating very well. He wants to be here. And Jaime, when you have players that want to be part of the club, it's always better. Him and Nico, two veteran players, they get along good in training. Some of the young kids, Fredy putting his arm around one of the young kids and saying, hey, this club is special. This is a great place. I listen to him sometimes talk about the stories about 2009 and 10 and 11. He's done a good job of being both a good soccer player, but then an ambassador to some of the players to give them a little bit of history of what it was like back when we launched the franchise.
Can you say anything about at all about the concerns about COVID Does it have to do with players or coaching staff? Can you expand on that a little bit?
Again, I would not be able to answer those specific questions, Jaime. But you can on background check with Alex.
Hey, Coach, somewhat related to that, given that the vaccine rollout has started to ramp up, are you hopeful that the team will be vaccinated or at least in the process of doing so by the time the season opens? And have you guys talked about how you will handle players who may not want to get the vaccine for one reason or another?
When it's our turn, I'm hoping that everybody gets the vaccine, Mickey. When Inslee or whoever's making that decision, Governor Inslee, when they make those decisions, I'm hoping that all of our players will do that. We have not talked specifically about, a player who might not believe in vaccination. We've not gone into specifics there, but I can tell you that it would be my counsel to that individual person to point out the benefits to that and the reasons why they might consider doing it. But, there again, I haven't really thought about it. And at this moment, a lot of the chatter here, not just from the coaches who are a little older, the players inside the locker room and inside the tent, I think there is a renewed optimism amongst the old guys like me and young guys as well that the vaccine rollout is coming and that everybody can kind of get back to normal a little bit.
Guys, any remaining questions?
Yeah, I have one more. Coach, going back to Nico asked a question about players who can play different positions, and you mentioned Kellen Rowe. And I wanted to follow up on Kellen and what you're seeing from him and in a 2 forward formation, where you were seeing him being able to slot in for you.
He can play multiple positions. You're correct. He's pretty good at all of them. So where he ends up is still kind of TBD, but I can tell you the positions that we've worked on him with at training. So he's played wing back in a 3-5-2. He's played as a midfielder in a whatever version of 4-4-2. I put him purposely the other day on the left-hand side of a 4-2-3-1 with Brad Smith behind him because, Victor Rodriguez was a player similar to Kellen, liked to get the ball cut inside, and Brad, did his thing. That was a pretty effective combination for us in the past. And so I purposely moved Kellen over there to see what that looked like, and that looked pretty good. He's played various positions in his MLS career. So it's handy to have, a guy who's multi-faceted, I guess you could call it. But, at the end of the day, he's going to want a little bit more structure, and we're still working on it.
Not sure if you're willing to share. You're throwing all these different formations out. What's the weirdest formation that you've thrown out here over the last couple of months, whether it's on paper or on the field? I don't know if you're willing to share that, but.
Well, there's not really, look, in soccer, yeah, there's a bunch of formations, but I think I've told you guys this before. Let's just, let's play 4-4-2 diamond, so you play a diamond shaped midfield, you have a holding and take the back four or whatever that is. You got a midfield that's shaped in a diamond. Nico's at the point of that diamond and 2 forwards. Well, Nico goes all over the field. That's part of his strength. And a lot of teams would say, okay, now you got to be disciplined in this shape, whatever. But Nico is who he is, and he makes the team better by his ability to move into different areas of the field. And guys are smart enough to, fill the spaces underneath him. Or when Nico goes here, Christian goes here, Nico goes there, Montero goes here. You go to the, 3-4-1-2. That's 3 defenders, 4 midfielders, Nico plus 2. Well, again, we allow that with Nico because he's our best player, arguably our best player. And again, where Nico goes, how we rotate the middle triangle of three midfielders. I mean, if Nico comes over on the left, maybe Christian goes up a little higher, JP holds the middle, and vice versa. So we've really done a lot of creative stuff to try and, again, what I always try and do is maximize each player's skill set within a tactical formation. But again, I would say, again, the options last year with Nuhu and Jordan Morris on the left side versus Victor Rodriguez and Brad Smith, I mean, it completely changes the dynamic of your team, even though it's the same, it's the same formation. So I would counsel all you guys to not focus perhaps on, it's important for you guys to understand or hear from me what the formation is, but it's always my intent to get the players to work well as a collective within whatever formation we end with. That's always the goal for me. It's not numbers on a whiteboard. That's not what's most important.
Coach, just to follow up on that real fast, in terms of how you build out your roster, if you go, excuse me, if you go three in the back, are you looking at probably carrying 5 fullbacks in your roster total?
I would think that we would need to have some other players in the pipeline, whether it be Tacoma or something to fill in, if that would be the case, if that's the way we want to go. Yeah. We've always had, Jason, we've always had 4 center backs for sure, and maybe a young one.
Right.
So, it's not that much different.
Brian, I just kind of want to know, what have you seen at Joe Paulo, and with all these changes to different formations, how has been his understanding and maybe his performance under whatever position or role you've put him through this week or so?
Well, JP is one of the guys coaches love because he's tactically astute. So a little bit of my little lecture there about formations and tactics and all that. We had a film session today to review our inter squad game, and I gave them a little bit of the same. What I appreciate, what I like to have on my team are guys that can be critical thinkers in those moments of the game when you've trained all week and you've trained in a 4-2-3-1, and all of a sudden your opponent does something and you have to change or you have to solve something on the field. You can't wait till halftime because they're exposing you, or maybe it's a flip. Maybe you're having a lot of success here and Nico Ladero is overloading the left side with Jordan and Nuhu or Brad, and Christian has to fill in where Nico should be as a number 10. I love the fact that those guys, some of the players that I have on the team, they can make those small little adjustments during the course of a match to help us win games. I love players that are tactically astute, and JP is tactically very, very good. He gets it. He sees the whole field, and that's what's made him such a valuable asset to our club.
And I hate to ask another formation question, when you just mentioned that and the fact that it's not that important, but in terms of a potential diamond, that lower part, that holding defensive midfielder, are you looking for a player that perhaps is more of the astute and intelligent type, or more of a rangy guy that can cover more space because that formation can be subjective to counterattacks?
Well, all formations are subjected to counterattacks. Again, look, if you want to talk about 4-diamond-2, a guy like Ozzy could play there, Gustav could play there, Jordi Delem could play there, Josh Atencio could play there. You have rangy midfielders or 6/8s going on either side. You have a true number 10. In 4-2-3-1, we always had, 2 central midfielders, 2 holding guys, but you always want to have one of them be the more defensive guy. The other one can be a little bit more focused on, moving the ball up the field. So Nico, again, how we end up, what players we add because we're playing a different system, what style, all of that stuff we're working on. And, we'll see what it looks like come opening day.
Thanks,
Coach, a
Coach.
quick
Appreciate
one.
it.
Nofutolo was called to international duty to join Cameroon for a couple of matches. How is he doing in preseason?
Say that one more time.
Nofutolo was called for international duty. Cameroon, can you tell us about him? How is he doing in preseason?
He's done very well. You knew who's a great kid. You guys have seen him a lot. He's a fan favorite. I would love to have, to someone's question early on, I would love to have the stadium full when Nuhu Tolo scores his first MLS goal. I think the fans are going to go crazy. So let's get the fans back in the building. Let's get Nuhu a goal.